Hello and welcome to the Globetrottin ADs. Since 2019, a way for athletic directors, activity coordinators, coaches, and friends to connect and collaborate no matter where they are around the world. We hope that you enjoyed the podcast and share it with anyone you think will enjoy it as well. And now, let's get this episode started.
Greetings and happy spring, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Globetrottin ADs. Been a little while, but we're trying to get back on track. We're all very busy these days, but there's always good time to have a good discussion concerning AD stuff for us folks in the international schools. So we got a pretty cool topic we're going to talk about today, balancing workload as an athletic director and coaching. So before we get to that, I'm going to throw it over to Nick and say what's up over there in Vienna. It's good to see you again over here in Budapest this past weekend.
Yes.
For the festival. Jamboree.
Yeah. Hello, Matt. Hello, everybody. That was it has been a while. April 6th was the last one, and that is basically something we're going to talk about, just how busy it is. Just to find the time. Of course, we had a break in between there, Easter break and things like that. You were in the States. But yeah, the last 2 weekends I was traveling. So 2 weekends ago I was in Prague. And then this past Saturday I was with you in Budapest. And this massive event you had going on there. Track and field, volleyball tournaments, softball games, tennis festival. It was crazy over there.
It was, big Blazer day. It was a lot of fun and very thankful to have good support to help me out with people helping site coordinate or tournament coordinate while I could run the track meet outside. And it was, but everything worked well, and I was very happy with everything. Great weather, of course, and a lot of fun. It was just good to see old friends and see some good competition and kids in action, and it was a good time.
It was funny because we were on the softball field. I had a lunch break, not long, 40 minutes. And I went over and stood by the shot put. It was discus at the time, but that area. And I was talking to a couple kids, watched some shots. Then it was right beside the high jump. Saw some of our kids go over the high jump. And then every little while there was kids sprinting and running right behind me on the track. And I thought, wow, how cool is this? I never want to be a track coach. I honestly think that's boring as a sport. I'm a team sport guy. Never mind the athleticism is amazing. I know that. But just to be there in the track meet, I need to come over just to hang out and bop around, talk to people, spread goodwill, because there was so many people there that I didn't get a chance to talk to because I was busy. But it's just there's always something happening. I thought it was awesome. Yeah.
You know, track, that's the funnest part about running track meets. Even though we only do it like once, twice, maybe sometimes 3 times a year, like, you know, you got to build some muscle memory, if you will, because like it's not something we do all the time, but there's so many moving parts and things you should know, and the schedule is important to keep it tight and stay on task, because if you're not careful, those meets can easily run overtime when you're delayed, you're running past. So on my paper, I was very happy. I looked at the end; we were exactly 2 minutes off schedule.
And that's with forgetting the long jump for the high school girls, Matt, because that's the word I heard, is that you forgot a whole category.
No, it was on the schedule, but for some reason there was a miscommunication for the officials.
Yeah.
So see, that's the thing. Like when the meet's going, I'm assuming everything's going because there's so many moving parts. Events on the track and field stuff's happening. But in the end, it worked. We caught up. And we finished on that. It was the awards took forever. Because you got to do for those of you who don't know, we have a big DVAC meet every year. It goes back and forth between us and Bratislava. It's awesome. But usually there's 6 or 7 schools. We're bringing middle school, high school teams. There's probably 150 kids in the meet total, something like that, which is manageable. You know, if you got the facility, of course, and people to help you run it. So we have a good crew with the officials. But, a lot of moving parts and a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool, and I am glad I'm not a track coach because our track coaches met at school at 6 a.m. with the athletes, and they got back to school at 10:30 at night. So
That's
when
some
they woke
serious.
up to when they went to bed, that was a long day.
Yeah. So, so it's a good thing you're not a track coach, because if you were a track coach and athletic director, that would be a, I don't know. I don't know how many people are doing both of those. That's a big task.
I couldn't be a head coach, maybe just an assistant coach, right?
Yeah, maybe an assistant coach, but there's just so many. Yeah, that's one of the great things about track too, is there's something for everybody, right? All
Yeah,
body types, all different. There's different things going on: sprinters, distance people, throwers. So like you have to really know, if you have a good sized team, all your kids, what they can do, what they can't do, what their preferences are, and goal setting and all that. It's a lot of management. So like
right.
if you're doing athletic director stuff and then trying to run a track team, I could see how that would be
Yeah,
very hectic.
yeah, it would be, and no matter what team, right? That's what we're talking about today is managing, or what obstacles there are, or what things we should really be concerned about when an AD is a coach, right?
Right.
We all have lots of things to do, and I'm sure almost all of us are coaching once a season, if not more, or at least have coached if you try not to coach every year. So there's different things to think about and to be mindful of, right? Whether you're the head coach or assistant coach,
Yeah.
or what team it is. So we have,
If there's anybody out there who is an AD and also a head track coach,
right?
I'd love to know who's doing that, because it's a lot.
Yeah, and
So,
I guess it depends also. I mean, we'll get into our list of our six things, but I guess it depends on how busy your school is, right? How many things you host or travel to. If you don't host a lot at your school and you're just coaching and going to one tournament, it could be a lot easier. But I think most big schools like ours, and there's a lot of bigger ones out there, we're hosting quite a bit, right, with different
for
teams.
sure. Yeah. And I think with team sports, you and I are team sport guys, like you said, and like
Yeah,
that comes second nature, because like I grew up playing baseball. I can coach softball here at our school. That's, I can break it down for infield, outfield, pitchers. You got three groups basically you need to work on,
hmm,
then some scrimmage time, and then go, batting practice and all that. So I think that's probably something that might be a little more manageable,
yeah,
some smaller groups. So yeah, so let's get into it.
do
What
it.
are some of the challenges due to the dual nature of these roles? So what are some of the concerns we're going to discuss today, that folks
Right.
who are coaching and trying to run a program, what are some of the challenges they might face?
Yep. Well, I'll start number one. Number one, no real order. I think we have six, right? I guess for every person, they could be one could be more important than the other, but a big one is time management for sure. So game day preparations, your practices, and travel that overlap with other teams and other duties that you have, right? So if you're coaching one team, let's just say the spring, like I'm coaching varsity girls softball like I always do. So that's only one of our many teams this year. So I went from dealing and putting out some fires and trying to plan my practice and get other responsibilities done, and then finish practice, run right in to get a game started today. So time management is always an issue, but
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, that's one unique thing about our job, which is one of the funnest parts and a draw. I think if you're somebody who likes variety, is every day is something different, right?
yeah,
The tasks, the daily tasks you have as an athletic director, are they're not the same every day. It's definitely not you're not having the same people to interact with every day. You're not having the same things to do every day, and then to throw a coaching job in there on top of it. So you got to, because you got to build time in to plan properly for your team and stay in touch with your kids. And if you got trips coming up or tournaments or you're some kind of friendly, making sure you're getting prepared for that properly. And Yeah, it could be a lot.
Yep. Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is run around all the time, and then just so burned out that you're not doing anything well. You're cutting corners everywhere because you're trying to
That's true.
fit things in
That's one
there.
of the pitfalls because you find you're either running out of time and just which is always, but it's you want to make sure you're doing quality because you care and you want to make sure the kids are getting a great experience, and it's hard to do that if you
Right.
don't have enough time. There's only so many hours in a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Number one, time management.
Yep.
What do we got next?
Conflict of interest.
Yes.
So there could be a perception that you know the team you coach is going to get favoritism or maybe the best gear or the best equipment or priority of some kind for travel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. People. True or not, it's often, and I'll switch just to just my daughters that are on teams at school. Is I don't want to show any favoritism or any perception of favoritism towards them. So they sometimes get the short end of the stick, and I know I've done that with our teams, my team too. When there was, okay, which team gets the better bus to go to an away game? Well, you know what? Let's give it to the baseball team because I don't want anyone complaining that Nick got the good bus for his team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they may not be reality, but it's just the perception of other people of favoritism, right?
Yeah, that could be a thing. And, um, it's just something you have to keep in mind. Of course, we know it also could be just that. It could just be a perception, but that's part of the job too, right? Is
Yeah.
like optics. We're concerned about optics sometimes in our job and making sure people understand that we are trying to keep things on the up and up, and we do have integrity, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely a concern.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just to think about it, right? To do things and think about how will other people think or find this
Yeah.
decision, right? Yeah. Conflict of interest for sure. Number two. All right. Well, number three, I think is oversight and supervision, right? Because you're overseeing and you're supervising all the programs. There's games. What if there's a game you need to be at, but you have a team practice. You can't be everywhere at once. I know from starting and supervision I see it from not leaving your team alone. So you have to do a couple things, or you have a team traveling. I need to see this team off, but my practice is supposed to start. And I want to be there for the team, especially if you're the head coach. So that's a big one. Being able
Yeah,
to
that could
attend
be
all games and practices.
for sure. Or like I had the situation this year where I was, assistant coach for the varsity girls basketball team, which I absolutely love doing, and because my daughter was on the team for a couple of years, and then she graduated, but I still stuck on because the head coach and I have a really good working relationship, and we're good friends, and it's a lot of fun to coach together. I didn't want to give that up, and I didn't want to not go with the team to the tournament. But on the same weekend that we were
Yeah.
supposed to go to our final tournament, we were due to host a big combo JV boys and girls basketball tournament.
Right.
So I took a lot of planning, extra planning on my part, because I have good people at school that I can trust and help run the tournament, and they did a good job. There's no problem there, but the the I guess the concern there could be that as ADs like you and I, we know so many things, so many little things that go into making a
Yeah.
tournament run smooth,
Yeah.
especially if you've been there for a while. You know your facilities, you know the people that are coming, timing, the caterer,
Yeah.
how to work with everybody. And those people don't have that know-how. It's no fault of their own. It's just the facts. They just don't have that day in and day out interaction or previous experience from running tournaments like we have. So that could work for you or it could work against you, I guess. But it's just something you really have to keep in mind. You have to be very conscious to prep everybody as well as you can before you leave, which I feel like I did. But there's still, I think there could be the perception of a concern, like, well, why isn't Matt here?
Yeah.
Be here because this is a tournament. He's off in a tournament
Yeah.
somewhere else with me. Like, so yeah, it's something you have to work through. You feel a little guilty.
Well, I was gonna say even just supervision of other coaches. Not necessarily that we all evaluate and go to practices, but I really like in the fall and the winter when I'm not coaching is to never be in a rush to leave. Always walk
Yeah,
around, watch a little bit of practice, talk, say hi, the kids see you. And now when I am coaching this spring, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have my own practice. So I'm rushing out to be out there to start and see my team. And then after, I want to get home, and it doesn't leave too much time to go around and supervise. Not that you need to supervise them, but to watch and to see how they're doing. So that
yeah. But I think it comes back to, like, we've talked about a lot of times before, is the idea of the importance of relationship building, right? And
yeah,
making sure that you have people you can trust that are going to understand that what you're trying to do, both things. You want to stay in touch with your program, you want to be still a coach and work with kids, and do the best you can, but at the same time,
yeah,
you know, developing those relationships so people do understand that
yeah,
they're going to be okay if you're not there every day after practice because you're busy with your own team.
yeah. Oversight supervision number 3. We got 3 more
Yeah.
to go, Matt. What's number 4? Or what's our 4th?
Yeah. So emergency response and accountability. So, something happens during a practice or a game, or it happens during the same time you're coaching your team. There's a good possibility you couldn't be there to alleviate the situation or offer expertise or whatever the situation could be.
Right.
Not being able to be there could be a detriment.
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth with my phone being on during practice or not, or just being by it, being available to pick it up. And I've had that many times. You're out there, you're doing something with your team, and there's an injury up in the gym, and they're trying to get a hold of you, and you don't hear your phone because you're busy coaching. Or on the other side, you do hear it and you pick up because if that guy's calling you at that time, it's important, and then you're torn from your practice, right? And
Yeah.
I guess a lot of these things come down to the amount of assistant coaches or the
Sure.
skill level of those assistant coaches. And I have I have a great one that I coach. Maybe she's going to listen to this. I don't know, but she is great. Who I coach softball with, but they're just not always there. She's not there on one practice a week always because of meetings. And today she was sick, and I was by myself, and something can always pull you away. And when you're wearing these different hats, you feel the need, unlike other coaches where you need to go and help out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
or
sure.
at an away game, right? When we were in Budapest, we had things happening all over. Or this weekend, we have people in 5 different schools all in the same weekend, right? So
Yeah.
things are going down constantly on the phone or answering messages, or often the parents, they're calling you for anything, or they writing you or texting you for information because you're the one that
And
knows it all.
they might not know you're coaching.
Yeah, yeah, no
Or
idea.
you might be in a situation like I'm going to be in this weekend. My
Yeah,
son has graduated from college, so I'm flying back to the U.S. for that, and I'm not going to be here for a tournament that we're supposed to be,
right.
we're hosting. But this is planned out well in advance too. So it's like those once in a lifetime things you really can't avoid them, and we got to go, right? You
Yeah,
got to go to graduation, so you just do as much prep as you can and let everybody know as much as you can, I think, and hope for the best.
yeah,
But
yeah.
also, it's like, again, relationships and building those so they're solid and good planning
Right.
so they're properly in place before you go. You
Yeah,
know, it's like being a substitute teacher or planning for a sub.
yeah,
It's more work
yeah. When
than
you're
it is
not there.
to be there.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Well, that's the perfect next one, right? Is communication and delegation. Let's do that one, because it's, you know,
Sure.
you've hinted at it, how you have all those, you had just had all these different events, but you delegated lots of duties, right? And
Yeah.
you know, in order for an AD to coach, you really have to be on top of your game with communication, letting people know you're in the States this weekend, for example, and to be able to delegate, right? So assistants, staff, whether that's
Absolutely.
an intern. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm very fortunate this year because I do have an intern this spring, and she's fantastic, doing a good job so far. And I have a colleague of mine who's a former athletic director, who's a PE teacher, and he'll be running the track meet for us. So I feel like we're in good hands, of course, but you still need to have that communication in place, and meeting times to go over all the details that you would know going into that event, of how things are going to run, and also working with concerning the housing, making sure that's all in place and the schedule's good to go, the buses are booked, the food situation is sorted, and yeah, it's a lot, but I feel like all the boxes have been ticked.
Right. Well, what do you do? Like, you just had a lot of different people, and you know, they may be on the payroll as an assistant AD or something, but are you paying people to step in and
Yeah. So fortunate that we do have a system in place where we have stipends available for people to be site coordinators or tournament directors if it's more of an in-depth role. So, that went back quite a few years ago when we were doing a review of our stipends, which we pay out for coaches, that we made sure to plug that in, because not just for me for sports, but also our activity coordinator, he'll have that in certain situations where they might be running for example, a speech and debate event, and Mark's a great activity coordinator, but he's not a speech and debate person. So it was in his best interest and the tournament's best interest to get somebody who's well versed and has a lot of experience in running speech and debate and knows the ins and outs of that tournament, to bring them on board and of course pay them for their time accordingly. Right. So that was a big help for our program to be able to offer that for folks, make it worth their time.
Yeah, it's great to be able to do that, right? Because you can only go down the well so many times of like, hey, I'm coaching this, so I'm away for this tournament, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, if you're away for something like, you know, your son's graduation or something like that, everyone can understand. But just maybe because you want to coach and the tournament's away, that other people need to volunteer to run the tournament isn't a good look, right?
Kukri Sports is a clothing brand that specializes in providing the world's most prestigious schools with bespoke made and designed team uniforms. If you're frustrated by inconsistent colors, branding, costs, and sizing across your teams, then it's time to email someone at Kukri Sports today. When you email contact@kukrisports.com, tell them about the Globetrottin ADs, and you'll receive a special offer on your coach or PE staff order.
All right, so our last one, which could be a pitfall of this unique situation, is burnout and stress. So there's a lot of physical work that goes in, emotional work, mental strain. So trying to be able to juggle all that and the responsibility that comes with it, you know, it can be something that could lead to fatigue, of course, and reduced performance, or, you know, and that's something it's always in the back of my head too, is like, oh my gosh, am I not being able to give the people who need it the most, the kids, everything I can give them because of all the other demands of the job. Right.
Yeah, because you're running around and you're answering the phone calls or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's funny. So I only coach spring. I have coached other seasons, but way back when I wasn't doing any AD work. And I always think I love it. So I can't wait for spring so I can coach, right? So you can be with the kids. And I think back always, wow, I'm glad I'm not coaching in the fall because the school year starts. And I think, well, I'm glad I'm not coaching in the winter because the season's so long and it's so dark and, you know, basketball games are late. And then when I get in the middle of spring and I'm like, wow, there's all this end of the school year wrap up stuff. And then I realize there's no real good or bad season to coach, right? Because
Yeah,
they're
all
all
the same.
busy, right?
Yeah, something's gonna pile up at some point.
Yeah, I think the good thing about spring is, including myself, people have a good feeling like summer's close. They're in good spirits. They're not dragging, even though obviously it's near the end of the school year. But I find everyone's a bit friendlier, and yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What's the best season to coach if you're an AD? If you had to only coach one or wanted to coach one?
Well, I've found that springtime it goes so quick, but it's also broken up. It seems like it's broken up the most for us too, even a little more so than it seems like winter season because of the days that happen, spring break, and it just seems like as soon as you come back from spring break, it's just one weekend after the other. So I don't know if it's the busy nature of spring is helpful in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like being able to do both, but I don't think there's any. I mean, the beginning of the year is I try to avoid the fall season for sure because that seems to be the busiest one because there's so much going on. You're trying
Right.
to kick it off. You got a lot of new people in place, new families, new kids, maybe new coaches, new people to the school you're trying to onboard or make relationships or build relationships with.
Right.
And so I try to definitely avoid the fall if I can, or if I will, it'd be still in a minor role of some sort. So
Right.
like this year I was the assistant beginner tennis coach and that worked out great. It's like twice a week for 1 hour each practice.
Well, that's another thing is like I think we're both really talking about being head coaches and that responsibility, but
Yeah.
throughout this episode. But if you're an assistant coach, right, you get the contact with the kids, get to be a part of the team, obviously show your expertise. But then, if you're a little bit late or you have to run out for a phone call or whatever it is, it's a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Have you been? Because you've only been assistant coach this year, right? You haven't had to.
For basketball, I've been assistant coach quite a few years. I'd say 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
So maybe even longer. But that suits me well because I love being able to help out, and I like to refer to myself as the director of basketball operations, actually, not the assistant. But I'm very good for getting pennies out and helping out with the cones and
That's a good role. I mean, everyone
yeah.
needs a good
But then
assistant
like
coach.
we were talking about earlier, then I'll get a phone call,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
during the middle of scrimmage, it could be in the room right during warm-ups,
Yeah.
and the coach who I work with is great too because she just knows that like I got to
Yeah.
take a call. It's cool with it. So yeah,
One thing I don't like about the fall is, I mean, I love coaching you get to know a lot of kids a lot better, right? Maybe just not on your team, but even the teams that practice near you, they see you out there. So that's one thing I don't like about the spring is maybe waiting and not really getting to know some kids till the end of the year, you know? And I
yeah,
often think, well, if I coached these kids and got to know these kids in the fall, maybe they play another team in the winter, or they do more, or they'd help with other stuff, or they do more things. It would be more enjoyable, even for me as the year goes on.
yeah.
But
Well, in the end, I think it's still good if you can find if you're a busy AD and you're in a busy school. I think if you can do something, it's still a positive because it does show the kids you're involved and
yeah,
you want to be there and you know what you're doing too. Like
right,
you're practicing what you preach. But I think it also lends to the idea of visibility.
yeah,
So like that's always a good thing too.
yeah,
And building those relationships. It's just like we talked about today. It's just it's management.
right.
Manage yourself and your time and not shirking your responsibilities and making sure you have good people around you for sure.
Right. It's funny that you practice what you preach, right? And that's I often, I wouldn't say I wrote all the rules and regulations and things that the coaches need to do, but definitely had my hand in all of them. So I really worry at the start of the year, and I read the coach's handbook that I wrote over, like making sure I'm doing these things, because if I'm not doing them, then why should anybody else do them, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's also keeps you in the game, right? It makes you realize, well, that's just not manageable. If something's not manageable for you to do, then how's it manageable for other people to do? These requests that coaches need to be on time with, or on track of the lists and track of do these courses and uniforms and all these things. So,
and the nature of that is that some things are going to fall through the cracks, right? And it's not intentional,
right?
And it's happened to me a couple of times this spring. Some things I just didn't get to, or I forgot, or just fell off the table.
Yeah,
it was on my list, just didn't get to it. Or you might have an email that's still buried, you haven't gotten to, you want to. It's just things get so hectic that you try to. But I think when those things happen, I always learn something from it, or make a note to myself to not let that happen again.
Yeah.
So the next time I'll be a little more prepared, or at least not let it happen.
Yeah.
I think it happens to everybody, really.
Yeah. And I mean, that's maybe just realizing, and when things happen to you, that you can't be on coaches, right away if they forget something and they do something.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a
All right. Well, that's a good list. I mean, 'cause I think we're all out there coaching. We all want to do the best things for the kids, and it's just some things to be aware of, right?
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask for help, right? I think that's another. I think as ADs, we have the tendency to put ourselves in a situation like we can handle it.
Yeah.
I got this. I know what I'm doing. I've got my experience. I'm in charge. And it does work most of the time, for sure. And I think they want to see that. They want to know they have an AD who's competent and confident, of course. But you also have to take an inventory of what's going on and be realistic. Like, if you do need help, don't be afraid to ask people for it, or have those conversations with your administration to say, "Hey, I need support here for some person." And I think majority of people will be okay with it, right? They're not going to leave you out on an island if you are professional, of course, and realistic with what you're trying to ask for help for. So I would say that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I don't know if you should try to coach, if that's a thing. But I think maybe not every year, but I think ADs should coach, right? And because they need to get out there and keep doing it. I'm sure we all coached before we were ADs, and maybe you just had a break, but it could be a B team. If you have, for us it would be like the boys B, girls B team, right? That don't travel overnight. Just get in there.
All right. Well, if you're in this situation, you want to share out what's happening in your school and how you're coping and dealing with it, we'd love to hear it. So.
Right.
Send us messages.
Absolutely. Right. And we'll do at least one more, right, Matt? I mean, it was a month in between this one. That was a pretty long dry stretch, but we got a couple other ideas, and we'll at least do a school year wrap up with some others, if not one or two. So anyone out there, you got another one or two coming, and then you have all summer to catch up on all the ones you didn't listen to yet.
That's right. We know they're out there. All right. Thanks, Nick. And we'll see everybody on the next time.
This has been another episode of the Globetrottin ADs. We hoped you enjoyed it. And until the next episode drops, head over to globetrottinads.com or visit us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.